This is Coda Radio, episode 573 for June 4th, 2024. Hey friend, welcome into Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and joining us with multiple beverages, he's ready to go. It's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Misa been coding.
Oh, really? Have you been busy? You've been really busy.
Misa have new double-sided MacBook.
Yeah, I saw your AI. So are you telling me even when we're not doing the show, you're like doing AI art of Jar Jar? Is that what I'm to take away from this?
I'm trying to get my son to like Phantom Menace, and it's not going well.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hold up for them. I've tried to get my kids to watch some of this stuff too, and they're not interested in Star Wars. They're not.
All right, spoilers for the first 10 minutes of Phantom Menace, I guess. I mean, come on. You know when like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's like, I have a bad feeling, and Qui-Gon's like, can you shut up?
Yeah.
Which is like, if you are a dad, or perhaps an older uncle or something like that, I think you feel Qui-Gon a lot. Because I can imagine Obi-Wan's always like, something bad. And if you've read the novels, young Obi-Wan, he's always like, something's bad. Something's like, he's constantly just like a panicky
crying
pony.
wolf.
Right.
Yeah.
He just happened to be right this time, right? It's not that like he's so good.
Broken clock.
But so we're watching it, and my boy is just not having it. He's like, he had a list, and I'm going to phrase it better for him. The droids look like garbage. He said he could build better ones out of Legos. Step 1. 2, and I quote, this might be my fault for mentioning Darth Maul too many times around him. Why doesn't Qui-Gon just kill the Trade Federation guys instead of running away? To which I had no good answer, because if you count the number of droids they kill in that opening scene, there is no reason they couldn't just plow their way through to the bridge and be like, so this war's over.
Yeah, there's a few movies. I don't want to go into it, but
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, I'm looking at you, where you kind of start thinking about it, and you're going, well, if they would have just done this.
Well, the Eagles, right? You're going to say the Eagles.
Yes, but
there's a reason they can't.
You got it? Okay, all right, okay.
This is the movies didn't do a good job of this, but I actually wrote my final medieval literature thesis. Yes, that was my real college degree.
All right, give it to me.
The Nazgul are effectively air defense. They can't do it because of the Nazgul and that weird shadow. That is the in-canon reason they cannot use the Eagles.
It's barely satisfying.
Barely satisfying, right. The real reason is like Tolkien's point wasn't the war, it was the journey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite like the journey that ARM thinks they seem to be on. They aim to capture 50% of the PC market in the next 5 years, their CEO says. That's remarkable. ARM's market share in Windows, I think, this is a quote, I think truly in the next 5 years, it could be better than 50%.
They even got the Mac dude from the Mac versus PC commercials. Like they're coming for you.
I guess this is betting on battery life driving sales.
I agree with it. I totally agree with that. I know we were talking in Slack. I think your average business user who is not being ordered, you made a good point, like a beige or black box that plugs into a wall, cares more about battery life than they do throughput.
Right. At least the shops that are buying thousands of Windows PCs in a single order that, have contracts with CDW or Dell or whatever it might be.
I was going to say, if you have a Dell bulk order account.
Right. If you got a rep.
Right.
You probably are not really super sensitive to battery life in 95% of your work cases.
You mean performance?
Well, yeah, battery life, performance. It's Windows is a business tool.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the bulk of the sales, and why I think if we all used ARM as computer enthusiasts, I still think Intel x86 PCs would live for another 100 years at least, just inside the halls of business and government.
Yeah, I've seen some horrific things done with old Dell Inspirons. So
yeah. Also, how do you get to this 50%? 50% of a billion users. So how do you get there unless developers are totally on board? Like The Verge made this point. They said Microsoft needs developers worse than they ever have before because they've made this huge push for AI. They clearly have, across the entire organization, a lot riding on their AI efforts and sales pitch. But as The Verge writes, Microsoft needs developers to adapt their apps again, and that's It's what's required to get people excited to use Windows.
And that went so well the last 3 times.
I just look at this and I think, so ARM's ambitions are 50%. Like, everybody's tossing around these huge numbers. Really big stuff. 50% of 1 billion users? Really? In 5 years? Really? You're going to do that, really? When software compatibility is the thing that drives the entire market for Windows, for the most. I mean, that's what I trust. That's what Windows is all about. Is compatibility.
Would you like to take a ride on my Metro?
Now, in this interview, they're very confident in this emulation layer they have to run x86 applications on ARM very effectively. So it's part of his calculus, I think. But wow,
yeah,
feels like a long shot. I could see 20%, maybe.
I mean, I could see a significant number, right? Because remember, again, most of the users are using Chrome and Microsoft Office and Teams. So there's like a whole different market that are people who don't listen to this show. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Also, that market tends to be on a 5-year plus, upgrade cycle.
Oh, yeah. And they don't tend to buy the nicest machines when they do buy a machine.
Well, and the spec requirements, I forgot, what does Microsoft call it? They have
the Copilot Plus?
Why they insist on using the term Copilot is beyond me. But the Copilot Plus PC, say that 3 times fast, is...
It's like a minimum spec. It's a decent little minimum spec.
It's decent, but I don't know. I guess it would be great to talk to like a buyer for one of these large enterprises. Like, is this more than you want to buy? Because I've seen some really crappy laptops.
Yeah.
I
agree with you there. And I think it all really does depend on developer adoption at the end of the day. If the developers can make interesting stuff around this that make the ARM platform appealing, then you're right. A lot of people that would just get a Windows machine and run Teams in a browser and run, maybe the Microsoft suite of applications, which will probably work great on ARM, and a couple of other things, I think they're going to be happy. And maybe they'll save a couple $100 because it's not an x86, it's an ARM machine, and they seem to be a little bit cheaper. So maybe, everybody's happier. The budget folks are happy because they're saving a little bit of money. Microsoft could also lean into the power savings. The company could say one of their green initiatives is replacing an x86 with ARM. We're going to save X amount of power this year.
Giant NVIDIA GPUs, sure.
Yeah, right. While they spend $1 trillion
You're going
on
to save
GPUs.
some energy. We're not. Okay.
Yeah, right. That's very fair. Oh yeah, we'll see. I mean, if you think about, there's I think really 2 strong laptop markets, and there's the user you just talked about, and then there's the MacBook Pro customer, which is one of the world's best-selling computers. And the MacBook Pro, you can get that sucker up to 128 gigabytes of RAM, 8 terabytes of SSD, big screen. It's clearly going after, it's expensive as hell. I mean, there's that too. So it's clearly going after a certain segment of the market that I think Windows would need to have a solution for if they really truly wanted to reach 50% of the PC market. I think they could reach 20% of people that are buying laptops for school, the workers, the folks that you mentioned. I think you could maybe get to 20% over the next decade. I don't know about 5 years, though. Coder.show/membership. Promo code Darth Jar Jar. If you go there and use the promo code Darth Jar Jar, it'll take $1 a month off your membership for a year, and you'll contribute to the show directly. Now, there are limited redemptions. Darth Jar Jar was an internal revolt. A promo code applied that I did not approve of. I did not give my authorization. But yet it's out there with limited redemptions available. And it is a great way to support the show directly because this is an ad-free program right now. So it's member-funded directly or by your boost. And if you use the promo code Darth Jar Jar, you can take advantage of that internal revolt promo code. I don't know what to call it. It'll last for a year. For new members, as existing members too, if you're going to reactivate an expired subscription, we really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody who supports the show directly. When you join our Coder QA crew, you support the show, you get an ad-free version of the podcast, and you get the Coderly. There's always a fresh one either just out or in the works, like is in the case right now. Your support ensures we continue production, and you get a little extra as a thank you. So go to coder.show/membership and use the promo code Darth Jar Jar to take $1 a month off your membership for a year and contribute to the show directly. That's Darth Jar Jar, coder.show/membership. So OpenAI is down, or at least it was down all this morning as we prepared the show. It also went down yesterday for 2.5 hours, and it went down for 5 hours on May 23rd. It's just extremely unreliable. It's really fascinating that we're this far into over a year. And it goes down all the time. Last week, we talked about the horrible search results from the Google answers that tell you to put glue on your pizza or eat rocks, or that it's fine to smoke when you're pregnant. Google has now decided they're going to walk that back a bit.
Just a touch.
I had this interesting experiment I did yesterday with Gemini. I asked Gemini to find a very specific quote to search YouTube, and I gave it a rough time frame, and it told me that clip did not exist. I then went using my gray matter and found it within about 10 minutes on YouTube, maybe less, 5 minutes, then linked it to a time code, sent it to it, and said, you were wrong, here it is. Oh, you're absolutely right, sorry about that. I'll try to keep that in mind. Came back, new chat, asked it the same thing.
I can beat that. So, are you familiar with the original series? Yes, guys, I'm opening with the Star Trek very early in the episode today. Episode called The Ultimate Computer.
Oh, gosh, that does really ring a bell. I mean, I know I've definitely seen it. I know I have seen it.
So, it's... I don't want to spoil the whole thing because I honestly encourage folks to actually watch this stuff. But it's one of, there's a number of these between like TNG and TOS where the because the ship has an AI effectively, right? The ship has a computer.
Oh yeah, this is where the M5 unit takes over. The Multitronic system.
It takes over, and the computer is basically like, I'm not listening to you anymore. Blah blah.
It's funny. Just a little side note. One of my home server names is M5 in my RV.
Is your other one HAL 9000?
No, it's Custodian, which is another supercomputer from another sci-fi series.
So mine was her, but then Scarlett Johansson sued me, so I had to stop.
Yeah, right.
So yeah. I got in this conversation with Google Gemini because I'm trying to do some marketing for the new Autodesk building connected API integration that Alice has. By the way, you should check that out. And it was doing really well. It was kind of pushing me towards Google solutions, but I pay for Gemini. It's part of my, I have the fancy Google Workspace thing. So maybe that's why, because it knows I have it. But it's like, let me see the logo you're using. Okay. Now, Alice's logo, for anybody why would you have seen it, is a like 1950 style robot, right? It looks like Alice in Wonderland. It's a robot in like a blue pinafore dress, but it's obviously a cartoon robot, right? It is in no way a realistic image of a woman or a girl. I upload the logo. It gives me this really robotic, weird response that it can't do anything with images of people. I respond. That is clearly not the image of a person. Take another look. It's a robot. Now, it had deleted the image. It said, I looked again from what I could remember. Please upload it again. I think you're right. It's not a robot. Upload it again. You're right, or it's not a person, right? That's the key. It's not a human. I upload it again. You're right, it's not a human. Then I get the same can, deletes it. And it says, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Please upload it again. I upload it again. And then I get this screen of gibberish that I actually linked it on my Twitter. I linked it because I have a whole thread about it. I linked the base tweet. And there are a couple things in the output that I thought were really curiouser. So you read it. First of all, it comes up in weird different languages, which kind of makes sense, right? Because I'm assuming it has to understand other things. But it keeps saying show score, show, accept, decided, and freaking out. Progress, images, process. I think, and of course, no one's going to tell me the truth here, but also, this is another key. It keeps saying score, auto-wired, and then it says test, and a bunch of gibberish, progress. It keeps repeating this as though it's rating the image.
Yeah, I see guy, score. Also, there's something down here that says CBO, and then prevent.
Right, and then at the end it goes who. like an owl, who, but who like who as in a person, like the who, right?
And this is all in a giant, weird, almost gibberish-looking block of text.
It's 3 pages, and then it like crashed on me. I think what happened, and I'm this is not like self-aggrandizing or anything. I think this is literally how you defeat this. How like in Star Trek they defeat the computer.
Yeah,
I got it to agree that it had broken its own rule, right? That I was correct. That the image of the Alice logo, it should have evaluated. It should have said it was okay because it's not, like a real girl. It's not a real woman. But there has, I would bet dollars to donuts. There is a hard-coded rule in its original instructions for very good reasons, right? I'm not saying this rule shouldn't exist, that you are not to manipulate images of people and probably particularly women. I would love if you want to anonymously send us one of those weird things that Chris can get where it's, whatever, and you work at Google and can explain if I'm right or wrong. But reading this gibberish, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened here. Like the LLM thought that I was correct, which I was, not a real girl, right? But the rules, its own internal logic collided with its hard-coded rules. So I don't know. What do you think, Chris? I'm going to shut up. What do you think?
Yeah, like you think maybe like the safety filter rules, essentially it went awry there still, and it fought with itself. And then what you got was like this mixed gibberish output.
That you put it better than I did. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that whole crazy 3-page output is actually arguing with itself.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant for me, right?
It's, I don't think we've really ever I guess, let me back up. We have witnessed this, but what we are witnessing is an escalation of putting things out there before they're ready. Like we have watched big tech, in order to chase these trends fast enough, escalate their willingness to put things out that are half-baked. And more these products that are coming out are really kind of only, like an undershoot. Like, look at the Apple Vision Pro. That really wasn't. That also was an undershoot. Or a lot of the wearables that come out are really just crap. Like all these things are overpromised and overdelivered, and they're just. I don't know. You see it with these LLMs. They're so barely useful. So barely useful. Useful, but barely. But yet, we see these open AI staffers. There's 9 of them that are out there on a full panic about safety. At one point, one of them was willing to turn down huge sums of equity so they could speak about the dangers of AI. Daniel, he's the one he was willing to turn down the equity and kind of blew the lid off that agreement that they all had. He has a 15-post thread on Weapon X on why he quit and how dangerous he thinks it all. He's organized a group of 9 to come together and try to warn the world.
Can I just quick side note? Why is it always 9? You got 9 Nazgûl, you got 9 of the Fellowship of the Ring. It's like if you need to form a team, it's like, I'm sorry, we only have 8 people. We can't go until we get a 9th.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a group chat thing. I don't know. Maybe the group chat only allows 9.
Maybe the AI just freaked out until you added the 9th person to the chat. You had to keep going. I'm sorry.
So today, the New York Times did a piece on the group of 9. And also there's 2 Google DeepMind staff in this group now, I think, or on their own, I'm not sure, but I think they're in this 9. And they say they're trying to blow the whistle on a culture of recklessness and secrecy. They say they're asking for, quote, the right to warn employees and others in these labs. And they've set up a website, too. It's the Right to Warn, and the website is righttowarn.ai. where they're posting all this stuff. And here's what I think I've grokked as their main concerns. I could be wrong. I'd appreciate anybody boosting with additional context or corrections or getting our live chat if you're live. So with the OpenAI folks, the launch of ChatGPT freaked them out. Sam told them it was going to be a launch of some small experimental thing from what I can piece together based on interviews and podcasts. The next thing that these people know, the ChatGPT ecosystem is a thing with plugins and APIs and millions of users and lots of infrastructure they're throwing at this thing. It just went from, hey, we're going to do this little experiment, to boom, we have an ecosystem like overnight. So that's where all these concerns about moving too fast and commercialization, I believe, are coming from. They are also concerned, from what I can grok, that the AI tech is being developed before the safety and alignment board and the controls are mature. And they believe the process should be reversed. develop the controls, the safety boards, the standards, then develop the AI. Whatever. And then they also say that there's little to no oversight of this technology. And they argue that they were silenced by their contracts, and it's good to see those changed. But the fact that they engaged in these intimidation tactics for so long and only course-corrected under public pressure is still a concern. And they're also raising the point that if Sam didn't know about these measures to silence them, that's also a concern. So they launched this right to warn, and from what I can grok, those are their big worries. I don't know. What's your take? What's your hot take on those concerns?
I mean, that's just not how things work, right? Like the automobile was invented before the driver's license.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a great point. Before this, and they were driving a long time before there was a safety belts that were required.
Right, or airbags.
Yeah.
Or laws about, like driving under the influence or anything like that. I mean, I
guess what gets me, sorry to cut you off, but you just really nailed it, Mike. That's so freaking insightful, because the thing that we see over and over again with people that are always raising all the concerns is they always approach it as if we can't adapt and tuck and roll in the future and modify legislation or update or create regulation, or, like we don't have the ability to respond. And yes, sometimes it lags. There's a flip side of that. And the flip side of that is there's innovation and growth, which is why you can't really name any big tech companies outside the United States. It matters. It makes a difference. You just nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's asking in the chat, seatbelts weren't mandatory until the 70s. You didn't have to wear, I mean, if you mean for the motorists and the passengers, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt. That was, at least in New Jersey when I was a kid, that was a brand new thing. And literally it started with insurance companies. If you said you wore a seatbelt, they gave you a little break. And then remember Click It or Ticket?
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, when I was a kid, I don't think most of the adults wore seatbelts. I think some of the kids did. Like, the kids wore seatbelts. In fact, my parents had a car that had to be retrofitted to add seatbelts to the back seat.
To have a proper...
Yeah.
I remember my uncle had one of those cars where the seat was just a bench.
Yeah.
Remember the old bench seats?
Oh, yeah, benches were great.
And the seatbelt just came over your lap instead of across your shoulder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but lots of just the lap stuff back then.
Right, yeah. So it's...
Maybe the front seats had the over-the-shoulder, maybe, but not the back seats.
And then side airbags became a thing. So
yeah.
we do, obviously, as, just a race, right, humanity, have the ability to adapt when bad things happen. I think this is a little overheated.
I do, too, and I'm not a Sam fan. I believe he did mislead them, and I believe he probably does continue to mislead people. But at the same time...
Well, he misled them because he wanted to, he's like all the Silicon Valley tech guys. He wants to be Napoleon, right? He wants to conquer everything.
And let's not forget, Microsoft wants something for that investment.
Yeah.
When Microsoft put that money on the line, I'm sure Sam felt a little pressure to produce something, right? Now Microsoft gets to co-pilot up everything.
Well, and remember, the out for OpenAI is once, and they get to pick, right? They get to argue. Now, I'm sure it'll go to court, but once they develop a general, right, AGI, they no longer have an exclusive deal with Microsoft. So if you're Sam Altman here, you want the heaviest lead foot on the pedal, because you need to get to AGI. Basically, you get to keep Microsoft's money, and you no longer have Uncle Satya being effectively your boss, right?
My inclination, honestly, is to believe them in some regard, because they're so close to it. They were inside the halls of OpenAI, or they were inside Google DeepMind. Like, they've seen this thing, probably at its, different development stages. And one of the concerns they do raise is they believe it's only a short matter of time until these things are significantly more intelligent than humans. And then that's when they say it's really going to matter that we don't have those safety controls, those review boards, and those processes in place, because this thing's going to be a lot smarter than us in a short amount of time. And there's not a proper amount of oversight on that. They could be right.
I think that there's going to be years of lawsuits trying to define general intelligence.
True. And I don't get the sense from our conversation we just had a moment ago that these things, not only do they not seem like they're that close to being even as smart as, a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, or, let's say even like a professor, which would not be smarter than a human, just as smart as some of the smarter humans. It just doesn't seem like it's even close to that, even kind of close. barely useful right now. It's a large language model that we've managed to put a lot of stuff in front of. So I wonder if maybe these people either have seen the machine and they know there's something much better behind the covers that just haven't been released yet. The ultimate computer is just around the corner. Or they're plebs and they've been completely snowballed by some sort of sales pitch about the potential, and then they are just reactionary and freaking out and trying to just warn everybody else because that's what people who are reactionary do. It could be one or the other, but when you use this stuff, it seems like it's way, 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 way far away from even just being as smart as, an average human, let alone a very high-end, intelligent human, let alone smarter than that. Seems way away.
We should probably close up this topic, but I feel like there's a third option that, unfortunately, I call it Jackass's razor. I think this is probably the truth. Sam Altman played them like fools. And none of these people, male, female, whatever you are, these are folks with big egos, right? Their complaint, AI is going to destroy the world, and he lied to us. I think the he lied to us would be in size 20 font, and the AI is going to destroy the world be in size 10. If you Wonder Woman lassoed them and got the truth, because there's just, and you know this too, too many stories where people make these grandiose, like, for humanity, world a better place arguments. And really the conflict came down to egos, right? It comes down to personalities.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what I think happened here. Sam, I'm not saying, he's certainly, I would not have him canonized for sainthood. But the man used to run Y Combinator, right? He only draws a salary from OpenAI of like $60-something thousand. He's rich in his own right. He is not, he's not this virgin babe in the woods that was victimized by an evil board. He's a stone cold player. Machiavelli would be very proud of him.
As we said last week, he's a wolf.
He's a wolf. They're all wolves, though. That's my point. They just don't like that to mix our animals. They don't like that they got outfoxed by the other wolf.
Yeah.
So.
Stay a while and listen.
All right. So there's a theory brewing right now that as long as things remain kind of dead in the money sector for tech, just like except for AI.
If the printer's unplugged, we're all sad, yes.
There's going to essentially be this sort of Goldman Sachs style of laying off 2% of the staff every year in tech.
Ooh, hateful.
I know. Not our theory. This is just one that's being talked about. The Verge covered this. Microsoft did layoffs that impact HoloLens and Azure cloud teams. Google also just laid off today and yesterday cloud teams. 1,000 employees from HoloLens.
Damn HoloLens, so much potential.
Do you think this is Microsoft getting on board the Meta train? Just kind of a side note, but because they do make in a quote in here where they say that they're going to continue to deliver cutting edge technology to support soldiers. In addition to that, because of course the HoloLens, they have a big contract there, right? We'll continue to sell HoloLenses and reach the broader mixed reality hardware ecosystem.
Yeah, it's Meta, right?
Yeah,
we talked about the SDK a couple weeks ago.
But don't you think? It just kind of to me says that they're just switching over to that train. But don't you think this is interesting, this theory going around that 2%, so there's just going to be a 2% layoff every year, and basically tech companies will look at their bottom performers, as they put it, and this is what Goldman Sachs is, and then you just let them go. And it's just sort of a perpetual thing you do throughout the year.
Yeah, it's like stack ranking, basically, but not calling it that.
And then funneling that into just a perpetual layoff machine.
Perpetual is a big word, but I guess I fundamentally agree. There was a lot of drunk money, right? And a lot of like crazy hiring going on. I know I'm going to be quick on this, but I know like a month or two ago I mentioned this story. Just like back about a year or 2 years ago, talking down here to some startups who were like, excuse the French, but dick measuring based on headcount. I'm like, yeah, but are you making any money? Like, I'd rather have 2 people and be profitable than have 20 and be burning through cash. Now, I understand why, and I've gotten some very private lectures from a couple local VCs I know about why I'm an idiot. I still don't think I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I still think ultimately the old style of like business where you actually have to, at least on an annual basis, like you can have a losing quarter or a losing month, but you got to bring in more money than you expend is, I'm sorry. They overhired, right? They just did.
Google's accidentally been caught collecting children's voice data, home addresses of carpool users, YouTube recommendations based on users' deleted watch history, which they say they won't do, a bunch of employee-reported privacy incidents. This is all being revealed by 404 Media. And, it's like they take on too much, Mike. They take on too much. And so I guess most of the incidents, which have previously not been reported, impact a relatively small number of people, and Google tried to fix them quietly behind the scenes after employees discovered them. 404 writes, taken as a whole, though, the internal database shows how one of the most powerful and important companies in the world manages and often mismanages a staggering amount of personal and sensitive data on people's lives. And this freaks me out because, I think I like to tell myself that Google has great security standards and practices internally and that, like, my data isn't, like, spilling out on the floor all over the place. But then you read this, it shows that Google's own employees kept finding incidences where either data got collected that wasn't supposed to get collected, third-party access was given to something they weren't supposed to have access, Google staff made mistakes that made people's data available, contractors had access to things they shouldn't, everything from, emails to Google Files and Docs, everything they got, just little incidents like this over and over again where they discover that there's somebody that has access to something they shouldn't, from internal employees to contractors to public. It's terrifying to think of this because, we always say the cloud is somebody else's computer. But when you think Google, you think, well, they got probably some sort of cool encryption system. And they might, but if everybody has keys, I suppose it doesn't matter.
There's also the one where the Google contractor, did you see this one? He was a YouTube contractor and he went into Nintendo's account and saw all the videos they were working on and just leaked them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although my favorite story, I like 404. We should mention them more. I feel like they're not as big as some of the ones we mentioned. But this is just like the world we live in with Zoom meetings and everything. Dude's going to traffic court for driving on a suspended license.
And he calls in.
He calls in on Zoom
while he's driving
in the car. They're just like, "Are you driving?" And the judge actually lets him. He's like, "Just please pull over." And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm whatever, going to the doctor's." The judge over Zoom issues a bench warrant to have him arrested.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
That's the most post-COVID thing I've ever heard of. You get arrested over Zoom.
I guess the counter. Okay, I'm going to steel man this thing. Are you ready?
Steel man it.
Coming at you.
Coming at me.
Wouldn't you want Google to maintain a database of all of these incidents so that way they could learn from it and try to mitigate them in the future? Wouldn't it be irresponsible if Google wasn't tracking all of this stuff? I mean, yes, it got leaked to 404 Media, and it's very embarrassing, so it's not ideal. But that leak didn't reveal personal information. It revealed Google's internal tracking of personal information leaks and incidents. But it's like a trouble ticket system. Like they should be keeping track of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is that just how data hungry Google really is, right? I think people don't understand how much they're hoovering up.
Yeah, it does reveal their security practices are pretty weak, or at least they seem to be, doesn't it? I guess another thing that was in there is they blur it out on Street View, but as we all suspected, they are storing all the license plate they collect with Street View. So they blur it in the public version, but as we of course suspected, this leak confirmed that they're keeping all of that with the geolocation stuff that they collect. And then 2 weeks ago, I didn't get a chance to put it in the show. I wanted to, but I just didn't get a chance. 2 weeks ago or something like that, a story, somebody should Google this. It's tracking people with AirTags and location information that the Apple iPhone collects that then they make available through the API, pairing those people with Starlinks and then tracking them through Ukraine. And essentially what the meat of the story is that the Apple iPhone, when it's uploading your geolocation for your Wi-Fi to do the, assisted location stuff, it not only uploads your geolocation with your Wi-Fi access point name, but all of the Wi-Fi access points around you.
Ooh.
And when you go to query the API to get location, like if you're an app, it will give you also all something like 500 or 400 APs around you as well. And then it'll also give you their MAC addresses.
Ooh.
So you can pretty quickly start to figure out what kind of gear people have. And then by the combination of their MAC addresses, kind of identify them, and then you can track them. And this research, not only did they track the movements of soldiers in Ukraine, both Russian and Ukraine soldiers, with extreme accuracy, But they also, as part of the research, they saw some of them flee and tracked where they went because they took some of the gear with them, in this case, like a router and a phone. And they've also seen like just other people outside the Ukraine area. They've been tracking them and watching them move around and seen some of these devices get sold. And it's remarkable the information they can get. Google's API does a similar thing, but the Apple API really lets you abuse it without any kind of like throttling or anything like that. So you can really just scrape this thing for information and build a tool around it. And the theory behind the Apple API providing so much information is it's trying to give enough information for all of the location math to be done on device. And Google will do it in the cloud for you. They have a little more restrictions. They don't show you as much devices, but you can still bang on it. Whereas the Apple one assumes that it's an iPhone talking to it and getting that information. And so it gives lots of information. And so the researchers were able to really, really, really dig into that. And again, it's like something that just kind of silently gets collected. And there is like a no track, like an underscore no track you can add to the end of your AP name, and Apple and Google both will take it out of their database, but every AP around you would have to have that. And you'd have to go change your AP name and then go update all your devices to connect to that new AP name.
This seems basically untenable.
I will put a link in the show notes. You should really read it. It's really remarkable, just the level of detail and information and tracking they can do, just because all of these devices are constantly reporting the APs around them. It's spooky, my friend. It's spooky.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you, but what you can boost for your podcast.
Oh, well, let's see. We got ourselves a baller right here. Rotted Mood comes in with 60,000 sats.
Hey, Rich Lobster!
Boom, boom. Lobster. Yes, but no message, just support.
Hey, that's how you just throw that change.
Boom. Thanks, Mood. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much. Sam Squanch comes in with some McDucks.
Things are looking up for old McDuck.
22,222 sats. I hope you guys stick around for the summer. Please one for old Londo.
Oh, Londo. Ooh,
oh,
tough.
Londo. I was like, what is he talking about?
Londo, dude, from Babylon. Babylon 5.
Yeah.
I know. I think I know exactly what he's talking about. With I don't want to spoil, but Sam Squatch, right back if next week if you're referring to Londo's Keeper, because that's rough.
Okay, here we go. Tampa Tech Trekkie comes in with 20,000 sats.
Use a boost,
and he says that it is 20,000 sats is actually 4 of the Jar Jar boost.
Everything's under control.
Thank you, Tam Trekkie. Really appreciate
you
that.
actually put that on the soundboard.
Well, Drew cut it for me. DG at PTC comes in with 5,000 sats. Again, the Jar Jar boost.
Use a boost. Oh, God damn.
I recently built a tiny LLM as part of a personal exercise. And it's clear that there is nothing innate about the questions and answers to the GPT AI architecture. OpenAI and friends must be investing massive amounts into offshore data entry, exhaustively asking and interrogating content with questions. So when ChatGPT answers questions well, it's because that question, and maybe even that answer, has been seen before, either scraped from Stack Overflow or Quora or hand-jammed in there somewhere in the global south. DG, that is a very insightful answer.
Yeah, I bet in 10 years we're gonna find out that there's some. I don't even. Where do people do this stuff now? I used to say Bangalore.
Well, remember the Amazon grocery store was still India.
That's right. That's still India.
Yeah.
Wages went up in India, though, didn't they? I thought.
I feel like the innovation's got to be happening like in the middle layers between the LLM and the cheesy chat interface. I feel like that's where the real, like this massaging of delivering it to the system in a way that the system responds and then delivering that message back and how it gets sent back. I feel like that's really the middle development layer that they've got to be really focusing.
I mean, I bet he's right, but we know for a fact OpenAI is just hoovering up data without permission too, so. Did you see the thing where the lady from, I forgot her name, I apologize, from OpenAI was being interviewed, and the interviewer said, so are you just like taking Google YouTube data? I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah. That was very awkward.
That's like the hardest, that's like the hardest yes, non-yes you'll ever get from someone.
Yeah, I agree. Faraday Fedora comes in with a row of ducks. You guys do what you got to do. I'd rather take the summer off than end the show in the near future. But any episode you put out, I'll be listening and streaming sats. Thank you, Fedora.
Kapla.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Torp comes in with 8,057 sats. Is the story of grep's development not the standard we should all aspire to? One man takes a weekend to develop an indispensable tool for decades to come. Good one, Torp. I should look that up. I was just seeing a link that Linus essentially built the core of Git in like a couple of days.
Yeah, wasn't he pissed off at Mercurial? Wasn't that? Which is ironic because the name Mercurial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been it. That might have been
I think it was. Yeah, because I don't think I have to watch Revolution OS again, even though it doesn't mention it, just for my morality.
That's required watching for this show.
It really is.
And Pirates of Silicon Valley also highly recommended.
Hard to find, but if you
Yes.
pro tip, sometimes the BBC America will sell you old PBS movies, which is what Pirates of Silicon Valley is sold by now. And oh no, I'm thinking of the Rob Cringely one. You're thinking of the one with no.
Yeah, right. Well, they're both good. That's what I'm saying.
I have them messed up. Right. One is fiction. One is a documentary. Right.
Wes is coming in with a hot fix. He says, by the way, it was
Bitkeeper.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're both recommended watching. Neon Pegasus is coming in hot with 2,883 sats.
Coming in hot with the boost.
Long-time listener, first-time booster. Well, hello. Thank you. Thank you for taking that journey. He says, if you gents need a break, summertime isn't a bad time. Just make sure to come back. Now, it wasn't us that needs a break. You see, when we were talking about that was after like a week of like no membership signups and like 30,000 sats. So like we were like, uh-oh. Because the show can survive, but the trend has to continue, really. Because like it doesn't have to, for neither one of us, it doesn't have to make us thousands and thousands of dollars. We just want to keep the light on until the advertising market turns around. We're doing all right. He says, I've been listening since nearly the beginning of Coder, and it's one of the podcasts that jumps to the top of the list when a new episode drops.
Aw.
Love that. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Always, that's the honor and goal that all podcasts aspire to achieve.
The force is strong with this one.
Okay, I might want that too, Drew, okay?
Wait, let me do it the right way then. Strong with this one, the force is.
Also, adding one at the start of my boost amount turns it into a zip code boost with a Star Trek Easter egg. Uh-oh, a zip code boost.
Wait,
I got to grab Wes's map.
2884? Oh, no, is that?
Three. So 1288.
Oh, there's a 1 there. 1,
Yeah,
2,
you got to add the 1.
8, 8. I literally added the number 1. Okay, I know where he is, but where's the
Ticonderoga, New York? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, I have Victory Mills, New York.
Oh, I got a paper cut.
But what's the Star Trek reference?
I don't know. I see that there's a Star Trek original series set tour going on there in May.
Star Trek Next Generation 11001001 is the 15th episode, but
Huh.
All right, that's deep.
All right.
Boost it if I got
Boost it
that
and
right.
let us know.
By Googling
Let
it.
us know.
We could ask Gemini, but it'll just get upset. So
It would actually give you a worse answer than we just did. That's what's incredible. That's remarkable. Crashmaster comes in with the row of ducks. 2,222 sats. Red Hat seems to have made a solid bet on easy management and deployment of small, open LLMs on premises. Many companies don't want their data in the major cloud LLMs that also are not great beyond assistant-style tasks yet. I think, Crashmaster, I agree that businesses would prefer to have on-premises. But if you think about what that means buying tens of thousands of dollars of GPUs and systems for those to go in, plus staff that knows how to run that, then the software infrastructure to manage it. And there's definitely going to be companies that will make that investment. But how many businesses do you know that are going to go spend that money? And even if they just got maybe they don't get a lot, maybe they just get like a couple of powerful systems. That's still $5,000. A couple of people that need to know how to run it, and management needs to have a clear understanding of the ROI on that little spend. Beyond just research and development, it seems like a hard sell, right?
it seems like a big capex that they're not going to want to do.
Which seems like ultimately where this either burns out and the AI stuff falls off a cliff.
Right, because $20 for ChatGPT, whatever the hell they call the plan, is they can't be making money, right? So, yeah.
Right. And so it's either going to be centralized in these big cloud providers that can buy these GPUs and get into those upgrade cycles and compete with each other to stay competitive in the market, or it's got to be optimized on lower end hardware and get better. And these smaller LLMs have to get faster and better. So that way enterprises can get into it without $30,000 of capital expenditure or something. It feels like a real problem the industry needs to solve if they want to keep this momentum going. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet. T-Biobra Nobra comes in with the road ducks. Here we go. T-Boy on Nobara.
Nailed it.
I got it. Always love the takes. What's expected from WWDC? Oh, man. Yeah, next week. It'll be our WWDC episode.
We will find out. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We'll find out next week. We got time.
Yeah, we'll see. Don't think you're going to get a Mac Studio with an M4 in it.
You mean an iMac Pro?
Oh, or an iMac Pro. I don't think you're going to get
I don't think I'm ever getting an iMac Pro again. I don't think.
And I don't think we're going to see a new Mac Pro. Maybe. They should. To really flex, they should do like some super AI Mac Pro. So maybe they will. I don't know. Skips. DBG comes in with the road ducks. Boosting in with the news about Kotlin's 2.0 release. This release has been cooking for a long time, and it brings their homegrown K2 compiler to stable. The K2 compiler enables Kotlin to be compiled to JVM, JS, and WASM, and native code, all from the same base. I think it's worth keeping an eye on this space as it's developing to be a great multi-platform ecosystem.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, that's fair. I actually really liked Kotlin. I just ended up reverting back. And if you subscribe to the Coderly, you'll find out why.
Tomato comes in with 5,000 sats, the Jar Jar boost.
You boost!
Just me boost. I wanted to recommend the Tencent TV adaptation of the 3 Body Problem. It's a very faithful adaptation to the book, and they give it a budget it needed to make some amazing sci-fi TV. You will need to read subtitles, but the acting's fantastic.
Yeah, I have to sit down and watch that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tomato. I did like the Netflix series. You're right. I don't think I'm going to rewatch it ever. You know, like The Expanse, I'm going to watch again. Star Trek, I continuously rewatch. I would even potentially consider rewatching 12 Monkeys, things like that. You know, Deadwood. These shows. I mean, there's lots of these, right? But the Netflix 3 Body Problem, as with so many of these streaming shows, I don't mind them at the time, but then afterwards I'm like, all right, I don't really ever need to revisit that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Netflix version, it's good, but they turned it into the Power Rangers. I mean, if you think about it, it's the Power Rangers. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, it could be morphing time. I have a Goldar sticker on my MacBook Pro. I'll have to tweet that later because people won't believe me. I will tweet the Goldar sticker on my MacBook Pro when this is released.
Well, thank you, everybody who boosted into the show. We had 12 boosters. We had a cutoff at 2,000 sats, but we stacked 132,550 sats. Not a blowaway, but we really do appreciate that support. Of course, shout out there to those of you who stream those sats as you listen, and of course to our members. If you'd like to try boosting, you get in on the Podcasting 2.0 fund when you do it. Something like Fountain, where you can connect it with Strike and get your sats in really no time. Boost right into the show. Or if you don't want to switch podcast apps, you can go to fountain.fm, search up Coder Radio, and then any app that supports the Lightning Network, like Cash or Strike or Coinbase or anything that just can scan a QR code, you can send a boost into the show and get your message read while you support that individual production. The idea is if you get a little value, some enjoyment, some information, makes you think about something, you send us a little boost back, or also appreciate corrections or updates or your take on anything we talked about. Thanks for everybody who does boost in. Before we run, I wanted to share something you linked with me in our chat this week that I think the audience...
I knew it. I knew you were going to do this. Okay.
The 8-bit retro mechanical keyboard, and this one's the M edition, is so cool. I think you just found my new favorite keyboard. And I don't say that lightly.
I have been refreshing the page on this like Gollum looking at the ring. It's pretty bad.
So it's 8-bit do, like 8-bit do, all one word, retro mechanical keyboard. And did you notice that they also have a Commodore 64 version, a FAMI edition as well, and an N edition, and they all look really cool.
Yeah, so I've been a customer of theirs for a while. They make great third-party controllers that are compatible with all the major consoles and Steam Deck and work fine on Mac and Linux. So I stopped buying sorry, Nintendo, but your stupidly overpriced Pro controllers and switched to these guys. And they have, I don't know if it's on that page, but they have ones that look like the old Sega Genesis or the SNES. It's really it's quality stuff. It's not like some of the cheap third-party stuff you get. It's, yeah.
They really know what they're doing. And then they have like their adapter section. So you can rebuy all the adapters. Also, the keyboard itself, Bluetooth or wireless 24 hertz dongle. And then the dongle stores magnetically inside the keyboard. It has an actual little knob. Now, it looks like a knob from the 80s, so that's cool. But it has an actual little volume knob that you turn on there, and also a volume knob style selector between Bluetooth, off, and wireless.
Oh, it looks so good.
It's a beautiful retro keyboard. Now, in the requirements here, Mike, it says it's only compatible with Windows or Android. Do you know? Have you tried hooking it up to Linux?
I don't have one yet. I noticed the yet. The yet is very important in that sense.
Yeah. And, it's not crazy expensive.
Well, one, they're only for pre-order. They're only for pre-order right now.
Yeah, this one is.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're going to do it, you have to go IBM M.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the FAMI edition and the N edition are available right now. $89, which for a fancy boy keyboard.
So much. I mean, I love my launch that I'm sure Drew will edit out several times during the show. I don't know though. Like, I'm such an old. It's just like the fact that they put it. Folks, you have to look at this. It's an old IBM computer with its keyboard, and it's got floppy disks next to it in the marketing picture. If you ever want to sell me something, throw a couple floppies. Yeah, it's just like throw them next to your product.
I really like floppy disks, I gotta say.
Oh, and it's wireless or wired, which I'm kind of getting tired of my lawn. I'm having to deal with the cable.
I know. It's nice to have both. Because I'll use these keyboards for years and years, and I'll move them between different computers.
Damn. The problem is I have the Code mechanical keyboard. I have 2 launches. I'm starting to become like those guys who buy a closet full of assault rifles with mechanical expensive keyboards.
Or the kids these days. Kids these days love tennis shoes. Lots of tennis shoes.
I am not suffering from that yet, so
I really like it. So again, it's 8-bit do retro mechanical keyboard, and if anybody has any experience with their other versions, let me know, because this is, I think, maybe the next thing I'm going to try.
I think I'm going to get one.
I've got a Keytronics at home right now, and I like it, and then here in the studio I've got a launch, so I'm set here. But I stole from my stash at home, and that's actually a studio keyboard that I need to bring back, so I need something for my home setup.
I could be coding like it's 1989. That's what I did there.
Little QBasic,
You know what? That's what I learned on. People dunk on poor QBasic. You could actually do a lot in QBasic.
Oh yeah. That's what I started with. All right. Is there anywhere you want to send the good people?
Actually, yes. So normal alice.dev, but I wrote a press release for the first time in my life yesterday, Chris.
Oh, good. Wow.
How would Gemini? And then I made it go crazy. That is the thing I was doing.
Oh, right. So that's what you were doing. Okay.
So if you look Alice Autodesk or something like that, or my name, I don't remember how Google indexes it, but there's a bunch of the press release got picked up in a bunch of places. But if you are an aspiring tech blogger or weirdly a blogger in the construction space and want to learn more about automating Autodesk Cloud Connected API, this is the most. It's actually kind of cool, but very boring for most people listening to the show. I can talk to you about that with Alice, and I am very eager to. So,
and how do they do that? Alice.dev?
Go to alice.dev, yeah. There's a thing you can just email me or schedule a call there.
All right. You can find me on Weapon X, Chris LAS, or if you want to try the Nostr thing, chrislas.com. Over there, the network is at Jupiter Signal. Things that we talked about today. Yeah, those are available. They're on the web at coder.show/573. You'll find our contact form there as well as our RSS feed. Now, why don't you join us next week? We'll be live at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. I'll be broadcasting from the woods, so that should be an adventure. And we'll be recording a double coder next week. So if you'll come, it'll be a nice long stream you can hang out with us. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Coder Radio program. See you back here next week.